Today's sync sound is popping a beer cap in 3, 2, 1.
I had to do that.
That was. I didn't even take a drink yet, and that was so refreshing.
It was very satisfying to hear. Thank you.
What's our plan here?
What do you mean?
Oh, we can't talk while we're drinking.
No, I meant usually we don't.
Listen, I'm gonna peace out, you guys.
Stay here, Dan.
No, it's cool. We'll just edit this together, and we'll just give Dan shit after the music for talking before he was supposed to.
I mean, I could open a third beer. No, I'm kidding. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, all right. Right, welcome to That Just Might Work, the podcast about everyday items. Jesse, and only Jesse, how are you doing today?
Yeah, it's just me over here, no one else. I'm doing well. I'm pouring my beer now into a glass.
You know, it's a, well, let me ask you first, what are you drinking?
I am drinking, I'm kind of embarrassed. Not that I'm a beer snob, but this is a UFO raspberry.
Oh, that actually makes me feel better about what I'm drinking.
Bud Light Lime, don't you?
No, I'm drinking a cider by a good brewery, Adirondack Brewery. But it's not a beer at all. So I lied, sort of, in my sync sound.
And I guess in the spirit of that, our secret guest made an early spontaneous appearance.
Yeah, well, it's difficult instruction to ask someone to be quiet for like a minute and a half. So let's just introduce him before he makes any more noise. Professional eBay salesman, friend of the podcast, armchair philosopher, and hair removal connoisseur. Welcome to the show, Dan Diner.
Hello.
Hey, Dan.
How are you guys doing?
Good.
I guess I'm starting to wonder if that was your first beer that you've opened tonight, or like.
I find that very offensive.
So is that your real name, Dan Diner?
I think it's
Dan Diner is my real name. Mm-hmm. Had it.
Ever
had
think
it for
about
a while.
Getting into the restaurant business?
That's really clever, Jason.
Yeah, I know you probably have only gotten that, from everyone
You're the
you've ever
first
met
one
before.
to say that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of people
Right.
do, like, I don't know, the song Jesse's Girl will come on, and they're like, huh? Like, look at that. And I'm like, no way.
Do you remember when I used to make fun of your initials?
JHC, because they're
JC.
Jesus' initials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just wondering, had anyone mentioned that?
That hadn't come up yet.
Okay.
It is sort of relevant with the amount of Jesus references that happen on the show for
That is
whatever
true.
reason.
Well, I have a pretty easy time remembering roughly when he was born. So it's a good point of reference for me.
That's the only reference point in time that you have is before or after Jesus.
Right, which I'm hoping that helps people out too.
It gives them a general sense.
Yeah.
Actually, Dan, I think that Jesse wanted to have you on this episode for another reason, and that is I understand are you maybe sort of a hairy guy?
I am.
Okay.
I feel like when I choose people for these episodes, I basically just insult the guest ahead of time. Because like with Hannah, I was like, well, she's loud and opinionated. And with Ramiz, I was like, he would be great for the toilet. And now I'm like, all right, here's Dan. Let's bring him in.
I'm not sure why you categorize that as in your list of insults, but yes, that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we will, in times in history, and we'll get to this, hairiness has been a good thing and a bad thing. So,
I think it's important, too, because I don't know how many of our listeners know what I look like, but I don't really grow a whole lot of facial hair. So I feel like I needed to bring in a resident expert, basically.
It would be a reasonable time to introduce Jesse's old nickname, Naked Mole Rat.
You're right, Dan. This is an appropriate time for that. Thank you.
I hadn't heard that one before. Well, Dan, what would you
It's
give
relevant.
if If you were rating Jesse's goatee on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it in terms of like fullness?
Well, we don't live so close to one another, so I don't get to see Jesse's goatee as often as I, would or should.
Would like.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It's a decent goatee. I am impressed how fully he could,
You make good use of what facial hair is available to
Right.
you.
People think I chose, they're like, oh, he could probably grow a full beard. He just wants the goatee. It's like, no, it doesn't grow anywhere outside of this region. That's the secret.
Meanwhile, with me, it's the exact opposite. I have it everywhere, but I can't grow a full beard.
Yeah, for me, it's it's similar genes to Jesse. Not a tremendous amount of facial hair, though I could grow like the best of neck beards. If those were to become popular, I'd be actually neck beards and a mullet. I've got like the hair growth patterns to grow a mean mullet. So if like a neck beard mullet thing comes into play, I'm gonna be hot shit.
I say we just hold out hope for that. It might happen for us.
I'm really banking on it. So let's get into today's topic. Today's topic is the razor. We like to start with the definition for anyone unfamiliar. The razor, according to Wikipedia, is a bladed tool primarily used in the removal of unwanted body hair through the act of shaving. Kinds of razors include straight razors, disposable razors, and electric razors. I thought I would ask you guys, and maybe we can just sort of have a discussion on this. What do you use to shave, and what does your shaving routine sort of look like? Do you want to go first, Jesse?
Yeah, sure. I think credits to you, but I now use the double-edged safety razor as well. And I have a pretty standard routine. I usually shave right after the shower. I think it's a good time to do it. And, I mostly do sort of trimming around the goatee and then, like you said, take care of the neck beard. I think that's pretty much my whole routine. I'm not very fancy with it.
What about creams, gels,
I use
pre- or post products, anything?
I use some shaving cream, obviously, some like sensitive skin shaving cream. And then I do have like I'm going to mispronounce this, like a skeptic. That's not it. The pencil. Do you want to help me out?
I think you're looking for Steptic.
No, I'm just skeptical about it.
Or is it
skeptical
Steptic?
about the Steptic?
Yes, I'll use that particularly if I did a poor job and I'm cut myself a few times. But I stay away from most other aftershave products.
Okay, I'm just taking notes. Sensitive skin shaving cream, UFO raspberry.
Naked mole rat. Did you
naked mole rat? All right.
Did you forget that?
Just sort of trying to profile you for any new listeners.
What I was gonna say that I think I have the name of our podcast listed on my Tinder profile. I think I'm gonna promptly remove it from my Tinder profile. This is doing no help here.
All right. What about you, Dan? What do you use to shave? What does your shave routine look like?
I also use a straight edge safety razor for the most part, but I have a Gillette Mech something, which is one of the more conventional cartridge based ones that I use just because I had it and I wanted to use the cartridges out before I fully transitioned to safety razor.
Does it have like 15 blades on it or something like that?
3 blades, I think, is conventional. I think it's 2 to 3 usually. So I use that. I think I probably shave every other day. I don't use regular the foam stuff anymore. I have a bar-based shaving cream that I have to leave in some water to wet, and I use a boar, like the conventional...
The boar's hair brush.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so I think I'm kind of... I think I kind of fall into the same territory of shaving technique, wet shaving, double-edged safety razor. And I have a confession to make. For about, I don't know, I've probably been shaving for
6 months
ish years.
It is a confession.
And in that time, that's almost all entirely safety razor, wet shaving, I was always using these fancy creams, shaving soaps, different, imported from Italy. What's that, Jesse?
Your skeptic's pencil.
Yeah, when I'm feeling skeptical, I had the pencil.
Yeah.
And I used all these different sorts of products, pre-shaving creams, post-shaving creams, aftershaves. I don't know. You might say that I'm way too into the shaving process, but just this past weekend, I caved, sort of out of
interest,
and I picked up a container of just Barbasol regular, shaving cream. My thinking was that, I find shaving to be sort of a tedious, time-consuming thing that I have to do. I shave as well, like every other day, so that I'm clean shaven for work. And the whole soap thing with the bowl, and I also have like a badger. I think mine's a badger hair. It's like the fancier one or whatever. I don't know. It wasn't fancy. It was like
showing up,
$30.
Dan.
But the whole process. And you're not supposed to single pass, right? With the double-edged safety razor, you're really supposed to, do multiple passes. It's just was too time-consuming for me, in taking like 15, 20 minutes for me to shave. So I went ahead and I tried out the Barbasol, which I had tried before with the same razor. And I don't know, I find that it's not any less effective than a fancy shaving cream.
Yeah, I definitely buy Barbasol for travel, just because it's easiest to find those in the convenient travel shape, and I certainly don't mind it.
Right. I guess part of the enjoyment of like soaps and whatnot are nice scents. You smell like sandalwood and also fun manly stuff.
Sandalwood and badger.
Right. But I don't know. For me, and maybe you guys have a similar feeling about shaving, but for guys, shaving is sort of a rite of passage, and for me, it's a very nostalgic experience. The smells from Barbasol and certain aftershaves kind of like bring me back to my childhood, and like watching my dad shave and like putting the shaving cream on my face, like not really shaving, and getting haircuts. The witch hazel, I still use witch hazel after I shave.
I was going to say that that's pretty much still what I do. Just put shaving cream on my face and brush it off. It doesn't really do a whole lot.
Yeah. But all these scents from these products they're nostalgic to me. Am I the only one that feels that way?
No, I mean I have that too. Obviously, we grew up in the same household, so Barbasol and all those other products have the same connection.
Jesse's nostalgic of watching you shave.
Yeah, right. So
no, I get that. It's a very sensual experience, sure.
How long does it take you guys to shave?
Probably like 5 minutes.
It depends for me on what we're talking about. We got to define our terms with shaving. I also, Jesse kindly mentioned, I am a very hairy guy, so I have things to shave other than my face. But well, I may or may not do that in conjunction with morning rituals.
Right. Okay.
He's like my cat, my dog,
my landlord, my enemies.
I've got a lot of things to shave over here.
Sure, and we could get into that. I've tried. I've shaved my chest before. Very itchy experience. I've shaved, other unmentionable areas.
Yeah,
before.
shoulders.
Right.
Unmentionable. I almost want to ask Dan, what's the longest time you've ever spent shaving?
Yeah, no, that was long. That was in high school when I did it for the first time, and I guess we can get into it when we're talking about different kinds of blades and stuff. But
sure,
some things don't work as well as others, so probably like a good hour or so.
Yeah,
when I first started experimenting.
We brought in the expert here.
Yeah. So I also own a straight razor, which I almost never use. I have the leather strop, I think is what you call it. I also have a shavette. I actually use that quite often to sort of trim around certain lines and such, where it's a straight razor with a disposable blade. Do you guys use any of straight razors on any sort of regular basis?
No.
No. I mean,
nor on any unregular basis.
Same with me. I mean, those offer the best cuts, but really for me it would be kind of meaningless. I grow back in pretty quickly.
Gotcha. All right. So if you guys don't have anything to add, let's jump into the history of shaving and the razor. So sort of different this time. I normally source all of my information straight from Wikipedia. I'm open about that. For this particular item, the razor, I found a timeline on almanac.com, and I feel like it did a much better job than Wikipedia did in sort of giving a timeline to shaving history. So I'm basically just going to read directly off of this website.
Okay.
So starting with methods of shaving. Methods of shaving have changed significantly throughout history, and perceptions of facial hair, like beards and mustaches, have changed with them. Whether or not a man grows facial hair has been determined culturally based on religion, convenience in war, simple preference.
That's why I have my goatee, because of the whole Syrian conflict. I just, it seemed right.
Yeah. You think you'll blend in better or something with it?
No, I'm not sure where I want to go with that, and I want to avoid getting shut down for political controversy. So
Sure. Beards have been regarded as unclean nuisances, signs of divinity.
That was actually Dan's nickname.
Wait, he means signs of divinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Not an unclean nuisance. Symbols of strength and handsome characteristics of an elite man throughout the centuries. In present day, due to the safety and convenience of razors, more men have embraced the ease of a clean-shaven lifestyle. Certainly, most guys are clean-shaven. I like how they refer to it as a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle choice. We choose to be this way.
Well, I certainly wasn't born this way.
Maybe not
All
you.
right. So, as per usual, I would like to ask Jesse, when do you think shaving originated, and what do you think that they used originally?
All right. I think Jesus has a beard in some images.
Yes.
But I think he could have shaved it had he wanted. So I'm going to go before that and say 2000 BC, and they used a sharpened bone fragment.
Okay. Reasonable guess. However, I have to say, I think that you are the farthest off that you've been yet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm still making progress, I guess.
It was before Jesus. There is archaeological evidence of shaving or removing hairs dating back to 30,000 BC, actually.
There were people?
Jesse, I kept telling you to
news to
take
me.
history. God damn it.
Yeah. Oh, man, my history education. I'm not going to mention the public education system that I went through because I think it looks badly for them.
No, it's just you that it looks bad, that we're looking badly upon. They found evidence of...
Dan, did you just snap at us like this is slam poetry?
It is kind of.
You're right. I suppose so.
They found evidence of people removing hairs with clamshells, which
Ooh.
were used like tweezers, or with razors fashioned from pieces of flint.
Mm-hmm.
Flint was used to make the first disposable razors because it was sharp enough to allow a man to shave, but dulled quickly. Now we jump ahead 27,000 years to 3000 BC, when copper razors arrived in India and Egypt.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Oh, you were thinking about copper razors.
Yeah, the copper razors. Yeah.
Right. Same timeline, roughly between 3000 and 300 BC. Ancient Egyptian nobles shaved their heads and bodies because they highly valued hairlessness, though men and sometimes women of noble birth wore artificial beards as a sign of divinity. Wigs were also common to protect the head from sun. They were really fucking confused at that time.
It was like they shaved everything off, and they're like, you know what we need? Fake beards and wigs. Like, where is the reason there?
It's really odd. 2900 to 500 BC, Mesopotamian rulers and elites wore beards, which were signs of masculinity and strength. I think we still see that in the beard, right? This is sort of a sign of masculinity and strength. 1500 to 1200 BC, Scandinavian burial mounds were found to contain elaborate bronze razors with handles shaped like the heads of horses. I want to get one of those. That sounds
I'm not sure.
Cool.
I'm not sure how easy to hold that would be.
No. 800 to 600 AD, the ancient Greeks found beards very important and only cut them during times of mourning. Losing one's beard was considered very shameful. Young men were not allowed to cut their hair until they grew beards, and then they sacrificed their first beard to the god Apollo.
It's like, I promised my first beard to you. What is that?
At night, we're going to mark the houses, and anyone without the marking, we're going to kill their first beard.
Shave all the first beards.
Yeah. 400 to 300 BC, Alexander the Great was clean-shaven and encouraged the same in his soldiers, as beards could be grabbed by enemies in hand-to-beard combat.
Jesse has been telling me that for like 15 years, man.
Yeah, I still practice hand-to-beard combat, actually.
Have you ever had anyone grab you by the goatee?
No, I'm not sure they could.
Around 300 BC, young Roman men celebrated their first shave in parties with gifts symbolizing the transition to adulthood. Roman men either went to the barber at the start of their days or had a live-in servant to help them shave. Romans let their beards grow when in mourning.
I was going to say, you stole my idea. Just live-in servant was what I was going to go with later.
That would resolve a lot of issues.
It would.
50 BC, Julius Caesar, and I realize I'm jumping in and out of a timeline here, but it's in some order. We're still in ancient history of shaving. Julius Caesar plucked out his beard hairs, and many Roman men followed suit. What do you think about tweezing your beard?
It seems like a terrible idea.
Yeah,
it would hurt.
Very painful. 100 AD, Roman Emperor Hadrian, am I saying that right? He revived the growing of beards throughout Rome. Now we get into the modern history of shaving and facial hair. The Middle Ages, beards went in and out of fashion depending upon the habits of prominent men. For example, English King Henry the Seventh was beardless. Henry the Eighth wore a beard. Many members of French royalty also had beards.
It's kind of how it is today. Like, a celebrity can sort of start a fashion trend, right? Like, if the men in Hollywood are wearing beards, then beards are in.
Yeah, I just need Brad Pitt to rock the mullet and neck beard, and then
you'll be all set.
The year 1500, many emerging Protestants grew beards as a demonstration against Catholicism. Most priests were clean-shaven. 1770. French barber
no,
I don't know how to say these French names. Jean-Jacques Perret.
Jean Valjean.
Anyway, Mr. Perret published The Art of Learning to Shave Oneself. And invented a razor. The Perret razor was invented as a safety measure with a wooden guard to hold the razor blade in place and prevent deep cuts. This was kind of like the first safety razor, you might say.
Was his book the prequel to The Art of Learning to Shave One Another?
Actually, it was The Art of Learning to Shave Your Friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Has Dan left the room?
Oh, hey guys, sorry, I was just shaving.
Dan's actively shaving.
Hey, that would be cool. From 1789 to 1861, the first 15 U.S. presidents were beardless. Interesting note. The year 1800, straight steel razors were widely popular. Men would rub the blade against a leather or canvas strap called stroping, to realign the fine metal edge and remove any corrosion before each shave. The blades also needed to be honed periodically, a sharpening process often done by a barber. Then 1861 to 1913, starting with Abraham Lincoln, who was famously advised to grow a beard by a little girl. Does anyone know that story?
No? Why did she recommend that?
I don't know. I probably should have looked into it, but apparently he was famously advised to grow a beard by a little girl.
Interesting.
Maybe he had did he have like a shitty, like non-prominent chin or something?
Yeah, maybe. Or just like terrible scars or something.
After Abraham Lincoln, every president up to William Howard Taft wore facial hair, except for Andrew Johnson, who was impeached, and William McKinley, who was assassinated.
For not having a beard.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. It's like they're trying to say they were killed because they didn't have beards. Beards were required to be carefully maintained during the Victorian era. 1895, King Gillette invented and began to sell disposable razor blades. It sounds like a joke. King Gillette, whom I don't think was a king. I think that was his name.
And Lord Philip Norelco. actually, like, what is that?
Not to be confused with Baron ShopRite brand razors.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, he invented disposable razors with the disposable blade. They no longer needed to strop and hone their blades. From 1913 to the present, all presidents have been clean-shaven since William Howard Taft. Who do you think is going to bring it back?
You think Trump could grow a beard? I don't know.
Don't say his name out loud or he'll appear.
He doesn't look like a beard guy.
No.
Nah.
1928, Jacob Schick invented the electric razor. That's a familiar name, right?
Yeah.
1930, the U.S. military prohibited beards because they prevented a tight seal for gas masks.
Not the beards. I think you needed to be clean shaven, so you had a tight seal.
That's what I said, right? They prohibited beards.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you sounded like beards prohibited a tight seal. Sorry.
1990, Anne Reed and Elizabeth Blunk's paper in Social Behavior and Personality found, quote, consistently more positive perceptions of social physical attractiveness, personality, competency, and composure for men with facial hair.
Interesting.
So I guess by nature, we're more attracted to people with beards.
Yeah, of course we are. They're more attractive.
That sounded remarkably objective.
You didn't trust me. I used to be a scientist.
In 1999, police versus the city of Newark. The U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of two Muslim policemen who objected to shaving their beards on religious grounds. And in the present, little interesting, religious anecdote on facial hair. Amish men shave until they are married, then they never shave again. Did you know that?
I have definitely seen Amish men with very long beards. I didn't really understand the rules behind that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That's just like, I feel like that might be entrapment.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say? So, like, you get married to someone and they're like, you know what? Never shaving again.
I'm getting married this summer. I could give this a try.
Yeah, good luck with that.
So never shaving again. And that is what I have for the history of shaving and razors. Some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you say we take a short break from the topic of the razor and play a little game?
All right.
Let's do it.
All right. A podcast favorite game What's that sound? Current score is 3-2 guests against Jesse. This will be Dan versus Jesse. I have recorded an everyday item within my house, and I've got 3, maybe 4, if required, clips that I'm going to play for you. You'll have an opportunity after each clip to place a final guess, and the first one to correctly guess what this item is going to receive the point. Is everybody ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Clip number 1. Here it is. Any guesses?
I swear, I feel like every first clip has been the same thing.
I promise that is a new recording.
Jesus.
It's not a printer.
Not a printer. Any thoughts, Dan?
Want
to hear it again?
Yes, please. Is that a scanner?
It's a very violent scanner, if it is one.
There's definitely some sort of sliding sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a closing sound. Okay. Not a scanner, not a printer. Should we move on to clip number 2?
Please.
Yes, please.
All right. Clip number 2. Here it is.
All right, now it does sound like a printer.
Do you own a fax machine?
No, it's not a fax machine. Still not a printer.
Today's everyday item sound is from 1985.
Yes, I don't think a fax machine is an everyday item anymore.
Jeez. Dishwasher was already used at some point on the show, right?
Correct.
You don't own a... I just realized that's still a printer. I was going to say a 3D printer. I'm like, oh, wait, that's also a printer.
Still not a printer.
All right, hold on. I mean, we can't say copier, of course.
We're really stuck on the office equipment. I'm not going to lie.
Admittedly, that does sound like a printer. I will give you that.
All right.
All right. Clip number 3. I don't think we're going to get it on that one. Here it is. And that is clip number 3.
This, what do you own? What is this?
I mean, can you try to talk me through your thinking process here? What are you hearing?
You had some sort of you were sliding something in and then it closed.
Yep. By the way, these are not in order of sequence in this instance.
Okay. Well, there was the sliding in and closing sound.
Right. Specifically, it's an electronic sound that includes some sort of opening, right? Some sort of initiation sequence. And that's why it sounds so much like a printer, because that it always has to adjust and do those ridiculous things with the cartridge.
Yeah, but that last sound was very like a motorized whir.
Damn it.
type deal.
Everything sounds like a washing machine.
Yeah. All right. I didn't want to have to play this final clip because I feel that this is a dead giveaway, but I will do it anyway.
We didn't want to have to be this bad at it either. Here we are.
The first person to correctly guess the item is going to get the point. Right. Are you ready? Here it is.
Xbox.
That is an Xbox. Congratulations.
Do you own a sex robot?
Dan's like, I know I recognize that sound.
So what we had there, in order of sequence, this would be the first one. Right after you turn it on, I, of course, did not include the little, boot up, because that would have given it away. This is sliding in a game disc, and this is the Xbox reading the disc.
You know what I'm realizing, and I hope people are taking this away too, is that it's we don't listen very closely to a lot of our objects.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the fun of it, is that I actually use a more expensive microphone to record these objects than I'm using for my own voice.
That is some high quality. Well, I don't want to hear you that clearly.
No, nobody does. So, all right, that ties it up 3-3. Nice job, Jesse.
Thanks. I'm really making a comeback in these games.
You are. Let's talk about why the modern razor sucks. What sucks about shaving. Why don't you go first, Dan?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think the razor's fine. Just in general utility, the problem, I think, is capitalism. The problem is that Gillette, in particular, has to create some
King Gillette.
Yeah, King Gillette, right? He has to create some reason to sell blades at a premium because the blades themselves, they're very cheap to manufacture. That's why safety edge lasers are so good.
Right.
You can just find a company that consistently cuts metal well, and it just the process is so cheap that it doesn't cost us anything meaningful, and we can throw the blades away just because they're tiny bit dull. The problem I have with razors, or just the conventional kind, the disposable cartridges, I think it's a really good setup, but I think it's very wasteful, right? So on one hand, even though people probably don't spend that much of during the course of the year on razors, they do pay much more than they need to. And that's because it's all controlled centrally by Gillette and whichever other kings control manufacturing, right?
So your gripe is less with the razor and more with
I think that that's my big problem, right? I see there's too much. It's like printer cartridges. It's very wasteful, and there's it's a decent enough setup, but there's no reason to go through so many units just from what we know by buying our blades individually.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point, and I think that maybe somebody listening can sort of be enlightened by this. But I feel like a lot of people are unaware that double-edged safety razors are still a thing, and in fact, they're quite effective and extremely affordable. In fact, I believe you can get a better shave with them than you can with your typical cartridge.
Of course,
razor.
much better. Yeah, because we're only a cartridge you're gonna use for a little while, but we usually replace blades after a shave or two. Right, so we get them right when they're most sharp.
I probably spend like $10 to $15 a year on shaving, whereas like a cartridge pack, it can be like $20, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
I hope this was almost informative for some people, and we can sort of take down Gillette.
Oh no! Don't let your podcast be almost informative.
That's one of our tags is almost informative.
yeah. The podcast about everyday items. It's almost informative. I think we actually have on our website. You might learn something. As one of our taglines.
Don't scare people.
But I feel like that's something maybe I'm qualified to speak on is different shaving technologies, because a lot of people just were basically pressured by capitalism and brilliant marketing by King Gillette to get into this system where you need new cartridges and you need a razor that has 3+ blades, and the more blades the better, and it's got a flex pivot angle and all that other bullshit.
Did anyone remember getting I actually got like a Gillette razor in the mail when I turned 18. Like, I don't even know how they knew.
It's creepy. Yeah.
But it was just like, we need to indoctrinate them while they're young and get them using our product.
Right. And then they sell like the canned goo. It's like, it feels really nice on your face, but it's like just like it has 1,000 chemicals in it, and it's just, shaving doesn't need to be that complicated.
Right.
However, mainstream certainly still is the disposable or cartridge style Gillette razor. My complaints partly would be that there are so many different ways to do it. It can be expensive. I also wrote it's not particularly effective, though some shaves are better than others. I always feel like I'm leaving stuff behind. I get razor burn now and then. I said it can be dangerous. Technique is too important. I feel if that's where the razor burn and danger and effectiveness all comes from, is that if you're doing it wrong. And I feel like we shouldn't have to count on people doing it right so much. I feel like the device should be able to handle some degree of misuse. And I also wrote that all the different shaving creams out there, soaps, I haven't really found anything that I really love. So those are my complaints. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I had some similar ones. Sometimes I do screw up or use the wrong product or whatever. You end up with razor boning cuts, which I don't like. I don't really like that you generally need a mirror. I know some people probably don't, but I find it pretty important. And I don't like that they don't stay sharp. Like Dan said, with the disposable razors for the double-edge safety razor, it's not such a big deal because they're so cheap, but it still feels a little weird to just be like throwing them out every other day. So,
yeah. All right, so that's discussion on why it sucks. How about innovative news? What did you find, Jesse, for some modern inventions and improvements to the razor?
Yeah, the razor industry has seen a decent amount of competition as of like the last 5 years. I think we all know of Dollar Shave Club.
Yes.
They're a pretty big company, and they're really behind the scenes. They're really just a marketing company. They did a great job of like selling razors to probably millennials, I'll say. And if you really want to use disposable razors, you don't have to go through Dollar Shave Club. You can buy directly from their supplier, Dorco Razors, and you can actually get them cheaper, and you don't have to sort of pay for all the marketing shiz that they do.
Yeah, I think it's a little misleading, right? Because it's not, the razors aren't $1; they're like $4.
Yeah, you pay like weekly or monthly, and I mean, we just permanently lost Dollar Shave Club as a podcast sponsor, but that's okay.
Guys, take us back.
We're like 20 or 19,000 listeners shy of them ever being interested
right
in our show anyway, so that's okay.
Next, I don't know if you guys have seen I mentioned Philips Norelco. They made the One Blade. Has anyone seen that?
Mm-hmm.
No.
I have almost a hard time describing it, but it's like a hybrid electric cartridge type deal, and the surface of it doesn't look like a bunch of like layered blades like they traditionally do. It's like a flat surface that has like, I want to call them like micro blades on it. And you can use this to do like just a regular shave. Because it's electric and it vibrates, you can kind of do like trimming, shaping, edging on like if you do have a beard or a goatee. It's apparently less rough than a regular electric like rotary heads, which can sometimes like rip out the hairs. I think the downside being it's not a super close shave, and it's still, like most of these, you do have to replace the heads, I don't know, every so often. And I'm assuming these are probably even more expensive because they're fancy.
I wanted to add, in the interest of the topic for this episode, I knew that I owned a rotary Norelco razor. Yeah. I hadn't used it in probably 8 years or so. I pulled it out and I gave it a whirl, and I actually shaved with it yesterday, just because I wanted to remind myself why I don't like electric razors. And
see, now I'm not the only one punishing myself.
I don't know. To be honest, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to. It was a horrible shave. I mean, I couldn't get all the hair. It was a little painful. Yeah. However, I noticed that at a distance from the mirror, I looked clean shaven, and it took me, all of like 3 minutes. I was sort of impressed by that, and I thought maybe if I'm running late for work, I'll actually pull out the Norelco.
I like that statement. It's like, at a distance, you'll look okay.
Yeah, no, up close, it was a horrible shave job.
Right, don't come close, but from over there. All right, so then, moving on to Kickstarters. There's a lot of Kickstarters for just fancy-looking double-edged safety razors and straight razors. A lot of people just kind of make them look hipster, I'll say. Nothing too, innovative there. And then I've got two interesting ones. The Man Mower. I like the name.
Good name.
And I'm going to do my best to describe it, but picture a roll of quarters, like that shape. You got like a barrel, and you hold the ends of it, and you then roll that along your face and neck. It has an internal barrel that is rotating as you do that, and it's kind of like a push lawnmower in that it like rotates, and it's more of a trimmer than it really is a full shave. It's meant to be portable. I will say that from the video, it looks particularly unpleasant, and I don't know what the use case is. They showed a guy using it at his desk at work, and then he promptly spilled the hair out on his desk. So, I mean, that's not a great idea, I don't think.
I feel like the inventor of that would have been a good guest for the podcast, because that's the type of outside of the box thinking I aspire to do. Like, all right, shaving the face, the blade's not working. What else do we shorten? Oh, our grass. Let's put lawnmower technology into a razor. And I mean, that's how I come up with my ideas oftentimes. That's not a very good one, but I give the guy credit.
Yeah, no, I think that was unfortunately unsuccessful. And then the final one, this is a little bit of another controversial Kickstarter. It's called the Scarp Laser Razor. It's a nice name, nice rhyme. They raised over $4 million, well over their attempted goal. And it's a very cool concept, okay? Picture a regular razor, but instead of a blade, you have a very thin glass fiber, sort of like you would for fiber internet, like a thin fiber. And in that fiber is a laser from one side to the other. A little science here, but the laser is in a state of frustrated total internal reflection.
I feel like I'm mostly in a state of frustrated internal reflection.
Yeah, I think that's my general thinking state.
That's my general state of mind.
Right. And the cool thing is, so when that the light in that structure, when it hits a hair, the light basically bleeds through the fiber and actually melts through the hair.
Oof.
Yeah. Unfortunately, obviously, you can probably already see a couple downsides. One, the smell of burning hair, not really the greatest. And it just really didn't work very well. Like, they showed it cutting through, a single hair at a time, but they couldn't get to do, more than, 3 hairs. It just didn't really work. And eventually, there's a lot of chaos, and Kickstarter actually, closed their Kickstarter and returned all the funding. So... If one of you guys want to pitch it with some better technology, I'm all for it, but that's about it.
All right. So I feel like I should go first, maybe, on my idea, because that idea reminded me a little bit of my own.
Okay.
Like I said, I thought about, all right, how do we shave? We use a blade. We run the blade against our face. That doesn't solve a lot of my issues. I couldn't think of a way to improve upon the safety razor, which I think does a decent job. I'm looking to improve it somehow. And I started Googling different ways of shaving. And then I thought, heat. I know that fire, you can burn your hair. So I actually went to YouTube. I wish I could. I
thought you were going to say you actually burned your facial hair off. I gave it a go.
I almost started choking from the smell of burning flesh.
I almost want to pull this up. I went on YouTube and I looked up burning facial hair. I'm doing this right now, and I turned a bunch of results. And this is the one. This is the one that I turned up. Listen to her describe it.
I burn my facial hair off.
Oh, it just stopped loading.
Great description. That's about exactly what I expected it to be.
I only really get peach fuzz on my upper lip and on the sides right here. But it can become noticeable after a while, and so I burned it off with a lighter.
So I thought that this was a joke, and I'm watching her, and she's waving a lighter around. She's going to hold this up to her face. And then she does. She runs the flame against her lip, and it worked. It got rid of the peach fuzz on her on her upper lip. So, with that, actually, I want to start the presentation of my idea with a question. For you guys, what is the best part of a shave? The most enjoyable part?
I would say splashing water in your face when you're done.
I think feeling the aftershave, feeling the softness of the skin after you've got a nice shave through.
Okay, well, that's wrong.
Don't pose the question.
The best part
Jesus.
is putting the warm lather, the warm shaving cream on your face.
Oh, that's what we meant. Yeah, that's the best part.
You're telling me you enjoy the splash of water at the end more than the warm shaving cream?
Jason, we were only teasing you. You are.
Whose shaving cream is warm? Mine is room temperature.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand if you go to a barbershop, it's warm, but are you heating it up?
Warm, but...
If you use the brush and you use a soap, it's warm because you mix it up with hot water. Right,
Gotcha.
Dan?
Absolutely.
All right, so fuck you guys, but this is I'll get to the name because it's honestly probably the best part about my idea again. Similar form to the modern razor. It looks like a cartridge razor. It has a heating element that gets to about 500 degrees. Reason being, I Googled temperature at which hair burns. Evidently, 450 degrees is the temperature at which your hair starts to burn.
Did you happen to look up the temperature at which your face melts?
Oh, I did. I was actually on burncentercare.co.uk, and I was looking at a chart of different temperatures and duration of time that it would take you to get second or third degree burns, and at boiling point. 212 degrees Fahrenheit, it takes 0 seconds to get second or third degree burns.
That sounds like a practical idea, Jason. Thank you.
A quick shave.
I wasn't... So I wasn't even going to mention that because I felt like it sort of detracted from my product here. Your skin is protected by an insertable and customizable to your desires block of antiseptic like bar that could be like your deodorant or like an alum block is like natural or your skeptic pencil, Jesse, have natural antibacterial properties. And it could also be like aloe vera, maybe, especially if you're dealing with burns.
Yeah, might as well preemptively put some burn cream on.
But if you think about the razors that some women shave their legs with, like the Venus or whatever, it has like soap on the head.
Yep.
Right, so that's what I want you guys to picture. This protects your face. It also moisturizes it at the same time. Hair is burnt off by the heating element. You need to be swift with this because if you held it still, you're going to get second or third degree burns. Sure. As is outlined by science here.
I want to just make a callback to earlier when you said I think one of the problems with the razor is that it can't really stand to be misused.
You guys, this is the best Kickstarter kick.
I'm just gonna get to the name. It's called, and this is sort of like a I'll just say it. It's called the Face Melter.
Of course it is.
Like a guitar solo. So the slogan is "Rock on with the Face Melter."
Oh my God.
I can hear like the lawsuit commercials already.
Have you been injured by false advertising?
Yeah, this is the second time I'm going to quote them, but yeah, if you or someone you know has had their face melted by...
So, I'll be the first to admit it. Not my finest idea. I struggled with this because, I don't know, I couldn't think of a better way to get rid of hair other than a blade. I thought about products like Nair and Veet and such, but I feel like those are kind of... Like those, a lot of people say those aren't good. Like they can burn your skin. So, not that 500 degree heating element couldn't, but that's my idea. So, who wants to follow that one?
Let's hear from Dan.
Yeah.
All right. Jeez, I don't know how to follow through with that one. Jeez. I mean, I feel like to the custom of your show, what I should really just suggest is to like put an LCD touch panel on it.
Yes. It needs a heads-up display.
That's good. You've definitely been listening if you're in that.
Needs a touchpad, absolutely. No, I mean, I think that the shave, what's good about it, and what, Jason was talking about nostalgia as being an integral part of it. I think it's I think it's like primal, and I think it's best when it's left like to its simplest, and that's why I think that safety edge, or what do we call them, the double edge safety razors, have had such a nice revival lately. And that's probably, I also agree with Jason about what he was talking about with skincare products not really making that meaningful of a difference. I think the reason I like, using the soap, the bar-based shaving cream and like the pig brush,
is because you're an unclean nuisance.
He needs his pig brush.
Right. I think it's essential, just a very primal kind of feeling. So I think I actually really like cartridge-based razors. I just don't like the garbage. So the obvious solution is to combine the two into... Oh, also I should mention cartridge-based systems like Gillette and Philips Norelco or whatever. No, Norelco's the electric, excuse me. I think one of the nice things about them is that they have the lubricating strip. So the obvious solution is to combine the two. It's just to make a cartridge that you could replace the blades out of so that there isn't, excess cartridge garbage, and to make it such that you can use any blades you want, not Gillette's, really silly, overpriced, completely unnecessary blades, which, by the way, none of you should be buying. You could buy them on eBay for about the third of retail price. They're really silly in stores. So the solution is to make that, but with, such a system where you can replace the blades. Of course, it's not commercializable, or it's not we shouldn't expect Gillette to produce something like that, because they need to find a reason to add premium, to their authenticated cartridges. But yeah, I think that would be cool. I think using the single blade system, but just, with the little plastic conveniences.
Some of the niceties of the cartridge razors.
Yeah, because it'll make it a little faster. That's the only complaint I have about the process.
It's kind of it's interesting because there are cartridge razor users, and then there are, I guess, people like myself, sort of like on like the snobby end of it, where I'm like, shun those things, and like I'm using a brush, and now I'm using Barbasol, so that's not really the case anymore.
Is that another beer, Dan?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's sort of like there's no in between. Like either you are using a badger hair brush and a straight razor sharpened, that like on your grandfather's leather belt, or you're just like a sheep using, in Gillette's system, getting a shitty shave. And I think that there is, the in between should be whatever works best for you and is most cost effective, and also, like you said, good for the planet. Disposable razors are they're terrible for the environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all plastic, and
and they're
sure, they end up in the ocean.
They're decent enough. They need reason to rationalize their ridiculous price, and reason is usually made in consumable plastic materials.
Yeah. All right. What do you have, Jesse?
I have something less reasonable.
As I would expect.
Is it LCD touch panel?
No, I will say I have no...
Jesse has a razor that says, oh, you almost grew a couple hairs this week. Fucking baby.
It's like, oh, I almost actually had to do something this time. No, my biggest issue kind of, again, is like, I hate how much time it takes. I have to stand in front of the mirror. I want something that's a little bit more hands-free and easy to do in the morning. I give myself very little time in the morning, so I need to optimize it. And what I have designed is a little bit of a terrifying contraption, but it is something that you actually install on the wall of your shower. And let's see. Picture a face mask, but picture a face mask from the movie Saw. And it's not, I'm not just going to have a bunch of coarse razor blades in there. This is actually, it probably won't give you the best shave, but it's going to give you a fast shave. There's my slogan. And it uses a bunch of small electric shave heads, like an electric razor might, and they conform to the shape.
Shower. Right?
In the shower. It's waterproof. It conforms to the shape of like your neck, jaw, face, and all you need to do is just push your face into it. As I did that, I pushed my face into the microphone. I hope that was.
So this is just like a giant electric razor.
It's a giant electric razor. You're done in one pass.
Wow.
And and I think it'll be a little adjustable, sort of, so you can kind of set it up to better fit the shape of your face. Though the shaving rotary heads are mounted on little springs, so there's some cushion to it, I'll say. And you just put your face in there, and it takes care of, like you said, don't look at me up close, but from a distance, I'm ready to go.
Right. And that applies just in general too, not just to your shave.
Right. What was that sign we saw in a restaurant where it just says like, "Pardon our appearance under construction"? I just want one of those on a shirt or something. Like, don't mind this.
Oh, that would be a great T-shirt, actually.
It probably exists.
All right, I like it. You went for a solution in terms of efficiency. Dan with more of an environmental approach, and there really wasn't a lot of logic to my idea.
Well, I think I just, to be fair, I think yours would have given like the best shave. Like, take the hair off and the first layer of the epidermis.
There's a little bit of risk reward there. It's like either the best shave or permanent, scarring.
Permanent.
You may never need to shave
again.
again.
Still be the best shave.
Yeah.
I should also mention for our two female listeners that I briefly thought, well, what about like a solution for women shaving? And as far as I got in prototyping, an idea for like leg shaving was like a circular ring of razor blades that you could just slide up your leg.
Oh my god!
In one swift motion, and then I was like, I better just stick to the man stuff.
Yeah, I was like, there's a reason you're on a podcast and not designing razors.
Right. All right. So that just might work. Let's move on to, has someone died using it? You've done the research, Jesse?
I have, and I have to say another interesting one.
So what are we looking for here? Has somebody died via razor or like while shaving?
I want to say that it has to have been basically a shaving mishap, because I will confirm for anyone who might be unsure, a lot of people had died by razors. That is true.
Yeah. In fact, in my Wikipedia research, I think I learned about like a gang, like the Razor Gang of England or something.
I'm pretty sure I was in a razor gang, but it was the razor scooter gang.
I was in that gang, actually.
Yeah, we owned the suburbs.
You guys were terrifying.
Don't mess with us. So, Dan, you can help me out here. What are your thoughts? Do you think that somebody has died?
Yes, of course they have.
Because of a shaving mishap?
Yes. It's a sharp blade, and it goes against your neck. Of course they have. And we used to not have safety razors for most of the time period of having razors.
So what do you think, somebody bled out?
Yes.
While shaving?
Mm-hmm. I'm sure. Also,
sure.
He is confident in this one.
Of course they have.
Well,
and of course there have been murders.
I'll be honest, and this is my final answer. My first thought was no, and that's unlike me. But I thought, all right, bleeding out, I don't know. Actually, side story, and I'm a little embarrassed to share this, but I actually have a scar on my elbow from a shaving incident.
What? What was
And
the incident?
And I wasn't shaving.
Well, he was shaving his elbows.
Okay, go on.
He had a date, and he was shaving his elbows.
No, I was shaving my face, and I cut my elbow. And I was using a shavette, so a straight razor. And I still, to this day, I can't really figure out the logistics of how this happened, but in sort of like reaching over my head and moving the blade across my face, I managed to catch my elbow with the razor blade, and I'm looking at it right now. It's like a 2-inch scar.
Oh wow!
It's bad. I
serious.
probably should have gotten stitches. And this happened like 5+ years ago.
So I will say that in my research, I sometimes check this. There's a database that kind of records all these like hospitalizations from household objects. And I was looking, you can actually search for injuries by like razors or shavers. And they let you like sub-search by body part. And I was just too curious when I saw that eye was one of the options. And so, you know what? I'm almost certain you probably weren't the only one with a terrible elbow injury.
Yeah, no, probably not. So I thought about bleeding out. I thought about like tetanus. I guess
okay,
be a possibility. Dan's like assuredness that somebody has definitely. I mean, he's got a point, right? It's we've had these for.
Right, you've been more confident about like more innocuous objects than a razor. So
right, and we're talking about a blade up against our neck that we've used for tens of thousands of years.
Right.
So with that, I'm going to change my answer. I'm going to say, yes, someone has died, and it was because they cut an artery. They slipped and they cut an artery in their neck and bled out.
Yeah.
And Dan's like, yeah, of course.
I've done that in high school.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah, give it to us.
I will say, first, I'm expecting a phone call from like the suicide prevention hotline.
Oh my god!
After Googling all day, like razor injury hospital.
I'm just afraid they're gonna kill me.
I'm like death by razor. Just so many Google searches I should not have done. I did find from that same database there's an estimated 49,000 injuries from razors, shavers, and razor blades every year.
Oh shit! That's more than the toilet.
Yeah, this might be our most injurious object. I couldn't really break it down specifically to like facial shaving. I found one scientific article that said there were 11,000 pubic hair grooming injuries between 2002 and 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed to be a growing trend.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Exactly. Wouldn't be such a problem if it wasn't a growing trend. And now on to the real answer here. The shaving blog Art of Manliness has an article, 5 men who died from shaving.
Oh, there was 5 of them. I can't remember.
And I'll read the most famous. This was John Thoreau, brother of Henry David Thoreau. John Thoreau. Not John, no. John Thoreau cut himself with his razor. A few days later, he came down with lockjaw and died in Henry David's arms.
Tetanus. I would have been right on tetanus.
Yeah,
shit.
and believe it or not, the other 4 from that article were also blood infections because of shaving.
Oh shit.
So you were onto something there. One thing I have to say is the article said that Thoreau's good friend Ralph Waldo Emerson, right after his brother had died, suggested that he spend time out in the woods alone near a pond called Walden, where we have gotten the famous essay from. So shaving death played a pretty big role in literature here. I think we got to give it up to shaving death.
Yeah, they didn't go in vain.
Wow.
That could have been a great pun. That's not how they died. It did not go into a vein.
You are definitely getting killed by these people at suicide prevention.
Yeah.
All right. So, are you telling me we've earned a half a point?
I'm giving you half a point.
Okay. Do you have any idea what the current score is? Because I do not.
Oh, it's always hard to remember. I think we may have been tied, and now you're up half a point.
I think it would be 3.5 to 3, correct? Or is it?
That sounds right.
All right, let's go with that.
We'll review the scoreboard.
Yeah, I say that, but I'm not going to. The score is officially 3.5 to 3.
This is like very fundamentally that whole concept of like the show's made up and the points don't matter.
Exactly. All right. I can't believe I would have gotten the full point with tetanus.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is going to conclude today's episode on the razor. On That Just Might Work. Dan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Absolutely. You guys could buy my fine goods, which frequently includes razor gear, both cartridges and single shave blades. It's my sword is Save Me From My Unemployment.
Is that the full link? This is an eBay store.
That's
correct?
right. So the link is stores.ebay.com/save me from my unemployment. All one word.
All right. So let's help them out here.
Oh, I should post an update and say I had at least one friend say they would contribute to my Indiegogo for like the Shit World tour, where I go to other
send
countries
Jesse
to use
send
toilets.
Jesse to Japan to take a shit.
Yeah, so we've got a little bit of money coming our way.
I'm going to be jealous if that actually comes to fruition and you get to travel abroad.
That would be the weirdest way for this show to go.
All right, so check out Dan's eBay store. Save him from his unemployment. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram. It's at That Just Might Work. On Twitter, at TJMW Podcast. Send us your feedback at thatjustmightworkpodcast.com. We haven't had any as of late, so we encourage your ideas for future episodes, your comments on anything said in this episode, your criticisms, whatever. Send it along. Feedback at thatjustmightworkpodcast.com. And hey, join us next week. You never know, we might be talking about your favorite everyday item.
Thanks for listening.